Hello everyone, this is Professor Natali, and this is a brief overview of some of the laws that we work with on a regular basis related to the staffing process. I'm simply giving you a list of the topics and laws so you can study for the exam this week. I am not going into detail about each one in this presentation. If you already work in HR, you should recognize all of these. And if you plan to work in HR or plan to get an HR certification, you'll need to know these. Every one is on the PHR and/or the SHRM CP certification exam. I've put the legal concepts into three groups. The first group contains laws centered on discrimination. Remember, discrimination is only illegal when we decide or we make a decision based on the person being part of that protected class. The protected classes are race, ethnicity, religion, color, national origin, age, disability, and veteran status. That's on the federal level. The laws related to these classes include the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It covers race, religion, and national origin. The ADA, which stands for the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it covers obviously disabilities. The ADEA, which stands for the Age Discrimination in Employment Act. And what do you think that one covers? Age discrimination. The EPA, which stands for the Equal Pay Act, and that covers pay based on gender, and it's also part of the Civil Rights Act. The PDA, which stands for Pregnancy Discrimination Act, and the VEVRAA and USERRA, USERRA. Those are both related to veterans. The first one stands for Vietnam Era Veterans Readjustment Act. The second one is the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Act. Most recently, there's also GINA, which stands for the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act. The second group of laws relate to the hiring process, and they include the Uniform Guidelines on Employee Selection, which governs selection procedures such as testing, and they require them to be valid and reliable. Basically, they have to measure what they intend to measure and be repeated with similar results. And they must not be discriminatory or biased towards the protected classes. The second is the Immigration Reform and Control Act, IRCA. This is the law that requires employers to collect work authorization documents before hiring. It's the I-9 form everyone fills out and signs attesting that they are here legally and have the right to work in the U.S. with the paperwork presented. And the third one is the Executive Order 11246. This one deals with federal government contractors and extends the EEO requirements to them. Did you know that most laws do not cover Congress, the President, or government agencies? That's right. So this particular executive order simply placed the same requirements on government contractors as were already placed on private institutions. This executive order also requires non-construction contractors with more than 50 employees or $50,000 in contracts to have a written affirmative action plan. In other words, they have to show how they will expressly hire minorities for the jobs that they create. The third group includes 6 key court cases related to the development of affirmative action, and they are Grutter versus Bollinger and Gratz versus Bollinger. That's Bollinger had a couple of issues that kept going back to court. Johnson versus Santa Clara County Transportation Agency, Martin versus Wilkes, Regents of California versus Backey, Taxman versus the Board of Education of Piscataway, and United Steelworkers versus Weber. You will need to research each of these topics on the internet and put the information into your own words to answer the questions on the exam. Again, this was just an overview to give you an idea of what's on the exam. I do not want to see quoted material even if you cite the source. I expect you to explain, summarize, paraphrase, and describe, and then you still cite the source that you use to formulate your answers. Okay, let me know if you have any questions.